This episode is sponsored by Archaeological Tours. Want to dig deeper into Mexico's indigenous past and present? Allow Archaeological Tours to customize your Yucatán adventure. Archaeological works hand in hand with local indigenous guides to provide a tour that is entertaining, educational, and beneficial to the local community. For an adventure like no other, check out archaeogato.com. That's ARKEOGATO.com. Or just follow the link in the show notes. Now, on with the show.
You must excuse me. I've grown quite weary.
This hasn't been easy, I know. But you've learned a lesson. A lesson in honesty. Honesty to yourself and honesty to others. That lesson will stand you in good stead all your life.
I think we've all learned a good lesson. I've always heard that honesty is the best policy. Now I'm catching on to why that's so, and 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 why that's so.
Greetings, dear listeners, and welcome to Tales from Atlantis, where we take you on a journey through Chicano, Mexicano, and Mesoamerican history and archaeology, and we push back against the spread of disinformation about those very topics. We are your hosts, Curly Tlapoyawa.
And Ruben Ariano Tlacatecat.
What's going on, Dr. Tlacatecat? Out there
What's
in
going
Tejaslan?
on? Yeah, well, here in Dallas, we're covered under a sheet of ice, snow, and sleet, and we've been pretty much paralyzed for the last couple of days here.
Damn.
Yeah, so that's where we are at the moment.
It snowed lightly here in Albuquerque yesterday, which was nice because it was cold and got to light a fire in the fireplace and just kind of chill inside, listen to some records.
Nice.
And, drink some day whiskey and just kind of
Stay drinking.
just, stay warm.
You know, like what you do out in the field? Just
Yeah,
drink.
I mean, it's going to be bad. The colder it gets, because we're doing linear surveys. So basically we're just doing survey in a straight line, knocking out transects. And when it's cold, man, especially when the wind's blowing like right in your face, nothing like a nice, toasty fire and a warm glass of beverage when you get back home.
You got to do something to keep warm, right?
Yeah. It's I don't know, I'm a southern Colorado boy, so I quite enjoy it when it's cold. But I prefer it, to be out having fun in the cold and not working.
Yeah.
And speaking of work, we've been putting in some work, folks. This is the end of season 5, the last episode of season 5. It's always amazing to look back at all of the episodes we've put out over the years and just everything that we've covered and get feedback from the audience and talking to people online and in the Discord server. It's always fun. So I've really enjoyed it. And for this final episode of season 5, I thought we would do a little grab bag of topics and hopefully get some of your hot takes on some news items that I pulled up.
Yeah. Those are always hot.
Hot takes from
Feeling hot.
Dr. Tlacatecat. It's funny because I used to work for the Albuquerque Journal back in the day. I was a graphic designer. And our first little news tidbit here comes from the Albuquerque Journal, and it's an opinion piece that I found interesting, to say the least. It's titled, "Should New Mexico Be Renamed?" And that piqued my interest. I'm like, I wonder what this guy's got to say. I mean, I figured I knew where he was going, and I was not disappointed. But this individual is asking that we consider renaming the state of New Mexico because, it shouldn't be tied to Mexico. And let me read you some of this individual's thoughts here so I could get your take on this. And I'm not going to say his name because fuck him, but here's how it goes. And I quote, I have lived in Albuquerque for 46 years, and there is one thing that has always bothered me. The name of this state. Perhaps it is time to consider changing it. There are, after all, a lot of people who agree with me. One even suggested that we have a naming contest.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes on to talk about how, Mexico, being tied to Mexico is a bad thing because
of the bad hombres?
Yeah, well, he references the patron system.
Oh, right, yeah. Who could forget,
Yeah.
Unlike what we have today.
Yeah, unlike the world we live in right now.
Much better place, yeah.
He says, there are a lot of people here who trace their heritage to old Mexico.
Old Mexico.
But if Mexico was really important to them, they wouldn't be here.
Ooh.
What an asshole. What a dumbass. And then he says, there's a lot of Hispanics whose heritage lies elsewhere, not with Mexico, and they get terribly upset when they are referred to as Mexicans. And then he throws out his suggestion for what we should change the name of New Mexico to.
Okay, this should be good.
It's great. Would you care to guess, like, what he thinks we should change the name to?
New America?
That would make sense, right? No, it's not even that clever. He wants to change it. He says, I think the name for our state should be Enchantment.
Oh, for crying out loud.
And then with all the skill of a, high school valedictorian, they pull this old thing out from their speeches. The Cambridge Dictionary defines enchantment as a feeling of great pleasure and attraction, especially something that is very beautiful.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. And then he goes on to say that renaming our state Enchantment would perhaps release us from the sins of the past, like the patron system.
Mm-hmm.
Be a prayer for a new beginning. Point us in a new direction and lead us to the realization that this state can and must be something that we could be proud of.
Oh, so he's not proud of the state now.
Apparently, he's not proud of it.
I
He's lived here for 46
years, but he's not proud of the state whatsoever.
He's had plenty of opportunity to avail himself of the ability to travel and get out of New Mexico. Another funny thing is he's lived here for 46 years, and apparently he still thinks that New Mexico is named after the country of Mexico.
Yeah, because, Old Mexico and New Mexico.
Old Mexico and New Mexico. And as we've discussed before
on
the show.
What about Unk Mexico? Is there an
Unk Mexico? Are you implying that this man is out of touch? He's a New Mexa-unk. Well, we've discussed it on the show before that New Mexico is not named after the country of Mexico. That
right, it predates the country of Mexico.
Predates the country of Mexico.
Yeah.
It's named after the city of Mexico,
Mexico Tenochtitlan.
Yeah,
right.
Which was, we also know it as the Aztec, the capital of Tenochtitlan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just find it interesting that the guy's lived here for 46 years, and yet he has thus far lacked the intellectual curiosity to
Exactly.
actually find out how
Right.
we got our name.
Like, if you're going to be against something, at least know the basics of the thing that you're against.
That would make sense.
But that's asking, too much of these people, I swear. I mean, what does he think of, for instance, New England? I mean,
Yeah.
hey, that's tied to Old England.
Yeah.
And we had
Jolly
an
old
entire
England.
revolution against the English, for independence. Does that ring a bell, Unk? What about what else is new? New Orleans? I mean, it's tied to those Frenchies, and we know how much we hate the French. I mean, it's so ridiculous, this guy.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm sure he's probably had this idea for a very long time. But I think that the whole renaming the Gulf of Mexico by the idiot criminal in the White House right now to demanding that it be called the Gulf of America, I think that might have something to do with this kind of renewed effort by these idiots to
They're drawing inspiration.
rename New Mexico tied to Mexico. If we're renaming stuff, we might as well do it now. Now's our chance.
Well, what's funny is like that the Albuquerque Journal sought fit to even publish this because it's garbage. Are they that desperate for content?
Well, isn't the Albuquerque Journal kind of right-leaning anyway?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right. So
absolutely.
I mean, it's something that it's gonna play to the base of the core readership. There are probably a lot of these people who are okay with everything that's happening at the moment. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I would just think that a newspaper would try not to be basically a Reddit comment section.
Well, a lot of the newspaper
is.
has become just basically clickbait as well because they need readership. They need to pay the bills. And so if this is
right.
I mean, we're here talking about it, so obviously it's worked to a degree.
God damn it.
They got
Your
you,
rage
Curly.
bait got me.
They got you, Curly. Prime example, number one right here.
I fell for your clever trick, sir.
So it worked, man. It's like those billboards that you see like when you're driving down the interstate and they're blank and it says, your ad should be here. It works. Like those clever little messages to try to get you to
if you're
buy.
reading this,
if you're reading this, right, it's the same thing. Opinion, should New Mexico be renamed? And then what I find curious about this story is that when you click on it, I don't know about your end, but on my end, there's a big picture of a Roadrunner. So I was like, do they want to name it the Roadrunner State
Roadrunner?
or something? I mean,
I was just about to bring that up because
honestly,
as a graphic designer, that's a really bizarre choice for the artwork, the associated artwork with this piece.
I mean, what would you associate New Mexico if you were going to draw on an image to associate New Mexico with? I mean, it wouldn't be the Roadrunner, I guess, is what you're saying. But what would it be?
Well, I mean, I would show a map. I would show some historical photos from from old New Mexico from back in the day, or I would have used some sort of maybe the state constitution or some image that reflects the history of the state tying it to the name of the state.
Yeah.
But just to have the image of a Roadrunner. And then what's really funny is underneath the Roadrunner photo, it just says, Roadrunners are one of the many birds that can be found in New Mexico. It's like,
that threw me for a loop. I'm like, what does this have to do with this opinion piece?
Naming the state.
I don't get it.
Are you even trying, Albuquerque Journal? That's what I want to know. Because back when I was a graphic designer, and I want to tell you this story because it's hilarious. I was doing an ad because I was designing ads for the paper. They came to me with an ad for a private school in Albuquerque.
Okay.
And, they gave me all the copy and they were like, this is how big you want it to be. And we would like there to be photos of students studying, having a good time, interacting with each other. And I said, gotcha. So I go in, because we had this subscription to all of this stock imagery of photos and stuff that I could choose from. And I found a photo of some kids studying.
Mm-hmm.
They just happened to be black kids. And so I make this ad and I turn it in And a few hours later, the ad rep comes in looking like really uncomfortable. And they hand me the ad. And they're like, so first of all, good work. They really like it. But they're asking if you could use a different photo of the students. And I looked up at them and they respond like real quick. They're like, I mean, I think they're great. I think the students look cute and I think it's super representative of what the message they're trying to put out there. But the client would prefer that. And then I interrupted them and I said that they not be black. And the ad rep was like, oh, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. And so,
well, somebody's saying it.
Somebody's saying it. And so they had me change the artwork. I printed out and I kept the original ad that I had designed because
Did you frame
think it's
put it in
funny.
your office?
It's in my portfolio somewhere.
Yeah.
I should frame it. But I like to bring that up as like an example of just how weird working at these places can be.
Right.
As a designer, as somebody who has to, work with the client and come up with the artwork and stuff. But here, in this instance, this isn't an ad like that a client said, I want a photo of a roadrunner associated with this. Like a designer, ostensibly a designer or whoever their webpage manager is, just kind of, well, fuck, let's just throw a roadrunner on it. But now that I think about it, maybe we should rename New Mexico to Roadrunner Land. That would be
Roadrunner Slan.
Roadrunner Slan. Roadrunner Slantis. And I think we should rename Texas Tejaslantis, by the way. You should write an op-ed.
I should. Send it in to the local rag. Here you go, fuckers.
Moving along, I'm a member of this Facebook group run by Archaeology Magazine. There was a post on it, a fairly innocuous post.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of the post from Archaeology Magazine was to talk about NAGPRA and how there was going to be an online, like a free online talk.
Yeah.
Bringing people up to date on NAGPRA and how it's being followed.
Or not being followed.
Yeah, or not being followed. Yes, exactly.
More precisely.
The post states, museums have been making updates, upgrades, and changes to comply with the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, or NAGPRA. And then it goes on to talk about how the Archaeological Institute of America, it's going to give a free online talk. And it will explain how NAGPRA is an opportunity for healing, reciprocity, and relationship building between archaeologists, museums, and indigenous communities.
Right.
Great, right? Like, one would think that this would be a net positive for people. But as always, if you scroll down to the comments section of anything,
you never want to scroll down to the comment section
related.
You never want to do that, man.
No. And, so I did, unfortunately.
You like to torture yourself, right?
Well, I was curious because I just thought that from Archaeology Magazine,
that the readership would be a little bit more sensible? Is that
a little smarter, maybe?
Smarter, sensible, more
truth-oriented, fact-oriented, maybe?
Or not a bunch of jerks, basically. Just say
Yeah, not a bunch of dipshits. So the very first comment is from this person who says, "We all know what it's really about. Erasing the past and controlling the narrative."
Say what now? That's what NAGPRA's about?
That's what NAGPRA's about, apparently.
To erase the past and control the narrative.
Yes, because when you allow indigenous descendant communities to have a say over how their ancestral remains are handled,
they're going to control what's said about them. How dare those
the narrative,
damn Indians want to control what's said about them? Who do they think they are?
The owners of their own histories? How dare they?
How dare they?
And then one of the responses to this is the hunter-gatherer tribal narrative rather than the truth of civilization.
What is that supposed to mean?
Yeah, I don't know.
That? Like, what is he saying here? That this is kind of like the opposite, right? Oh, they're not going to tell the truth about the real native history. So I don't get it.
Yeah, if we allow them to have a say in how their ancestral remains are used and presented, then they're going to distort history and somehow hide the real facts,
the real one,
from the general public. And then another person chimes in, and the truth that people migrated to America from all over the world, and the truth that there were giants in the mounds, and the truth about what the mounds were built for. It's like, it's insane how quickly this devolves into just utter batshit insanity. I love that some rando on the fucking internet somehow knows all of these things. Like, they have access to all of this hidden knowledge. It seems like you would be more than, a commenter on a Facebook thread if you had access to all of this hidden knowledge that you're privy to. Maybe you would have like book deals and speaking engagements and a professorship somewhere because you're like this intellectual giant who's uncovered this vast historical conspiracy. But now you're just some asshole on the internet spouting off because you want to talk shit about Native people and how we shouldn't be allowed to control our own ancestral remains.
Right.
And then another person pipes in Chicora, which I don't even know what they're talking about here.
I was going to say, who's Chicora? It just comes out of nowhere. Chicora?
Chicora explains that the giants were created through breeding, hormone therapy, and nutrition. They were very real. Chicora explains the religion cult, and that the god king must be taller than his servants. It's all documented, and archaeological evidence backs it up. But the tribal narrative historians are set to destroying our true history.
Chicora.
I thought Chicoro, isn't that the place where you go to buy like makeup and perfume and stuff? Isn't that Chicora?
Oh, you're thinking of
It's like
Sephora.
a store in the mall, right?
Yeah,
Sephora. That's what I'm thinking of.
And then I like the response. Chicora is a person? Someone else is responding.
Yeah.
And then they ask the question, hormone therapy? Yes, they are real. Sure, some of the accounts are exaggerated or made up, but there are way too many news articles of skeletons excavated.
Good grief.
News articles of skeletons excavated as proof of what? Giants?
Giants, I guess. I picked this just to illustrate how hostile people get towards NAGPRA and towards indigenous knowledge. And just indigenous self-determination, is a way of having a say in how our stories are told. And then how that's almost always combined with this racist pseudo-history.
Right.
And they're so confident. You read these comments and they're like 100% convinced that the shit they're spewing is real.
Yeah.
And then, of course, somebody has one intelligent comment. It says, they passed that 35 years ago and they still haven't sent everything back, which is a good question, right?
Yeah. And no one responds to that reply. But then you have the next one right after them. Most natives I look up are recent transplants in the 1700s and are not the mound builders. So to bury these artifacts only hides this fact. Hardcore genealogists and DNA tests are making this very clear.
The fuck do genealogists have to do with this?
That most natives, I guess, to certain areas are recent transplants in the 1700s, but transplants from where?
Yeah.
Not from somewhere else. I mean, while there is a little bit of a nuance here that this person is trying to interject in the conversation, I think people who read this might not understand that just because you're a transplant from a different part of the Western Hemisphere does not negate the fact that you're an indigenous person. Right?
Yeah. I mean, people migrate across lands.
Exactly.
within the Western Hemisphere.
So
This-
it's kind of hard to gauge what this person is really trying to get at, but you
Yeah.
can tell that they're trying to also kind of add to the conversation about hiding things and burying the facts and obfuscating the truth or whatever.
And then the final one I want to bring up is this. The icing on the cake, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
This guy.
yeah.
And of course, his fucking name is Skip. Because he says, and I quote,
Skip. Hey, Skip. That sounds like a dog's name, isn't it? Skip.
right?
Here, Skip.
He's so, yeah. So according to old Skip here, this is America's history, not just the Indians. And somebody tries to correct him and says, well, you should say Native American. And I don't know if this person's being like a dickhead.
Right. It's hard to tell.
You should say like
if they're being sarcastic, right?
Yeah, if they're being a sarcastic asshole. And they say, you should say Native American. And then Skip retorts with, we are all Native Americans. Oh, Skip, you ignorant slut.
So in my classes right now, today, if we were in class and not home because of ICE, we'd be discussing indigenous America, the origins of people coming to the Americas, why it matters that they were first here, and why that continues to matter in terms of what a Native American person is. And I make the distinction. And I'm glad that Skip here at least didn't capitalize Native, because I tell my students that when you see the term Native American with a capital N, that should only ever apply to people who are indigenous to the Americas and who are indigenous to what is now the continental United States, generally speaking, although there's debate about that. But generally speaking, that's what we refer to, Native Americans. And when we use the lowercase n to say Native American, that means anyone who was born in, quote unquote, the United States of America, by definition, technically, through the nationalist lens, they're Native Americans. But this guy, Skip here, is trying to conflate the two, right? To say, well, we're all Native Americans. Like, no.
Yeah, if I was born here, I'm a Native American.
That's not it, Bob. Wrong answer. Wrong answer, Skip.
Yeah. And interestingly, I would venture to guess that old Skip here would have no problem with getting rid of naturalized citizens or people who, whose parents may have been undocumented, but were born here.
Right.
He probably wouldn't have a problem with doing
those people aren't Native Americans.
Yeah, they're not the
me.
real Americans. I should just listen to you and stay away from the comment sections of these fucking
Hey, but
things.
at least it gives us something to talk about here, so we can have a little conversation and educate people that are listening to this in case they didn't know. Although, I mean, to be fair, we've talked about this before, but I can't expect everyone to have listened to every single episode, especially if they're new listeners. So that reminds me, at some point, we need to circle back to a couple of topics and kind of add some new perspective, even though if we might use some of the same old facts and information that we've already discussed, but we'll give it a different, not that it's a different interpretation, but we'll add in new findings, new information that we've uncovered within the last couple of years. So stay tuned, folks. Next season, we're going to circle back to some old topics. And also, we're going to try to get to those topics that we thought we were going to get to, but because of
human sacrifice.
Yeah.
By the way,
unforeseen circumstances, right? We haven't been able to.
Yeah. I don't know if everybody's noticed, but some shit's been going on that kind of shifted our focus. But speaking of human sacrifice, the episode, I've actually started writing. I've written 2 episodes dealing with it so far. Okay. And I think the plan is to do it as a series instead of just a one-off episode.
Right.
And so I've written sort of like the introduction piece that's going to kick off the series.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've written an individual episode. And then I'm also trying to line up some interviews and stuff. So
Great. Yeah.
it's going to be like an actual mini series within the podcast proper.
Yeah.
So
kind of like the Virgin mini series,
exactly.
which reminds me, I know that there are some people out there a little disappointed because we didn't do an update this year, but no, do not fret, as I like to tell my students. It's coming, and hopefully we'll get it done for next season, season 6.
We'll be back after a quick break.
This episode of Tales from Ostlantis is brought to you by Ostlantis Premium. Don't you just hate having your favorite podcast interrupted by ads like this? Well, dear listener, you're in luck. Because starting at just $3 a month, you can support independent Chicano media and receive ad-free episodes, premium episodes, bonus content, and access to our Discord server. Just visit talesfromostlantis.com and click Go Premium, or follow the link in the show notes. And now, on with the show. And speaking of a topic that keeps rearing its head, I want to finally put this one to bed because I'm still seeing people argue about it online. And it's the whole Latinos for Trump thing. And people are like, if anybody's a Latino for Trump, then blah, 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 blah. And, me being me, I can't help myself. And so I interject myself sometimes, and I'm like, well, actually, it doesn't surprise me that anybody who identifies as Latino would have this outlook, would have this position, because if we look at Latino identity and Latinidad, these are very white-centered, conservative, colonial identities, and that we should just probably stop using them.
Yeah.
And because they prioritize whiteness. And I get a response that's like, yeah, but I'm not white. And I'm like, yeah, you're so close to getting it. You're so fucking close to getting it. So ergo, if Latinidad is whiteness and you're not white.
Why? Think about it.
Come on. You're almost there.
You're almost there. You're
so close. Yeah, you're so close. And I could picture them being like, because I imagine what I'm going to say in response. I try to anticipate their next question. Well, if I'm not a Latino, then what am I? And it's like, okay, let's explore that. Let's
because it's
crack
going to be
open
complicated.
That walnut. Yeah,
it's going to be very complicated.
But the first thing is to get away from that Latin bullshit, man.
Exactly. And it's tough because there are people who might not necessarily want to identify as indigenous, even if they have a certain percentage. And so what do you tell those folks, right? Like, if it's not Hispanic, if it's not Latino, then what is my identity? And I like to tell folks, it's like this insistence that we have a collectivized identity is the issue, right?
Exactly.
Because it leads to being used by bad actors for control purposes, whether it's through political means or through economic means, which, the word Hispanic and the word Latino in this country, at least, I don't know about Latin America, that's a whole different conversation, but here in the United States have been used for political purposes and for economic purposes. And it's over time it's coalesced into an identity. Now people use it as an identity. And I try to tell my students when the conversation comes up in my classes is like, well, if we really look into it, if we investigate this and research it, we'll find that the term Latino is not really an identity. And then I bring in to bear, this idea of, well, I mean, if anyone who is tied to Spain or has a Spanish last name or speaks Spanish or some other Iberian connection, whether it's Portuguese or what have you, can be a Latino or Hispanic. Well, where do people from the Philippines, end up in this? Yeah. What about native people from the Southwest who were colonized by the Spanish? By definition, they should also be quote unquote Hispanic or Latino because
most of them have Spanish last names.
Spanish last names, right? Even if they might not speak Spanish anymore, but they used to. Their ancestors at one point spoke Spanish, just the same way that indigenous people in Mexico were forced to speak Spanish, right? So are they also included in this? So you get people thinking, but there is really no solid, hard solution that's a catch-all for everyone, right? And that's the problem. People are used to being lumped into this huge umbrella term because there's comfort in numbers, right? It's for political purposes, for this and that. And like, yeah, but at the same time, it can be flipped and used against you at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I don't think we're ever going to resolve this issue.
No. But just for the record, I'm a Chicano, so.
Yeah. Chicano. And when people ask me, I tell them that I'm indigenous Chicano as well.
Indigenous Chicano. Yep.
Yeah.
Indigenous Chicano, or I'll say Chicano Masewale.
Because not all Chicanos out there identify as indigenous either. So we have to qualify that.
But that segues into the next little thing that grinds my gears that I kind of want to put to bed here.
Yeah.
End of year grievances. It's like Festivus up in here. There was a lot of hullabaloo online. Some hullabaloo over whether Chicanos can be Trump supporters.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like all this argument. And I would just like to set, the argument, set it to bed and just answer this for everybody listening. No, absolutely not. In fact, not only not, no, but fuck no. Being a Chicano and being a Trump supporter are
not the same.
Antithetical. They are the antithesis. They are in direct conflict to each other.
Right.
So call yourself fucking Latino if you want to be white. Call yourself Hispanic. Call yourself Mexican American, but you're not a Chicano. In fact, if you want to be truly honest with yourself, call yourself a punk bitch, because that's what you are. If you're trying to rep our people and you're supporting this motherfucker. But that's,
Yeah, recently, not the first week, but so before classes start, we do what's called Return Week. And so we have a conference. Each school has its discipline has its own separate sort of mini conference to get you like a little pep rally, right, for the semester to get you going. And one of the administrators, who I only see at these meetings like once or twice a year, to be honest, I'm not really sure where she's from. I'm assuming she's from Venezuela now because of what she said. But, she was going on about how after the new year that her mom had just recently passed away, and I was, trying to, give her my condolences. And then she's like, yeah, but, at least she was able to see Maduro be captured and spirited away for the benefit of the Venezuelan people. And she's like, yeah, and it happened in the middle of the morning. And, my brothers and I, we got together, we toasted, and we called my mom, and we got her up out of bed in the middle of the night. And, this elderly woman who was like in her 90s, and she passed away like a few days after that, to celebrate the fact that, think whatever you will of Maduro. I'm not saying he was someone that should be, respected for whatever he did. I'm not Venezuelan. I don't live there. I don't know what happened. But to celebrate American imperialism in your homeland, if that is in fact your homeland, and you celebrate the intervention of the United States in your country for whatever reason, I've lost respect for this lady. That's all I can say.
I don't blame you.
Before I was like, okay, this is a woman who's accomplished and who's done things and who continues to do things for the community. But the sheer fact that she celebrated American imperialism, and intervention and regime change in this country in South America, it's like I'm done. Like I'll be polite to her like I usually am with everyone, but that interaction that we used to have, it's like this. I'm done with that. It's like if you're one of these people who pretends to be nice. Like there's a lot of instructors at my school who, they pretend to be nice and they pretend to care about the students, because we're supposed to be a student-centered college. And then you have these opinions that you're a MAGA, that you support Trump, and that you support immigration, and then you support, like, how can those two things, how can those two things go together? They conflict. You can't say that you're for the students and at the same time be in favor of these policies that are destroying the communities and also affecting students themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand it. I really don't get it. But anyway, enough of my little diatribe there. I just had to put it out there because it's
Yeah,
been bugging
absolutely,
me.
man. So with those out of the way,
Right.
I want to touch on some positivity here, man. I came across this story just from a few days ago, from Calo News, and the headline is Tucson leaders discuss possibility of a Mexican-American Chicano cultural center. And the subheader is, the city of Tucson is working with a contractor to make a decades-long dream of having a hub for Chicano, having a hub for Chicano
Hey, that's
heritage.
true Chicano right there. You got to Chicanify it.
Making it a reality, Mayor Regina Romero said. And I don't know, I just found this story, cool. It was inspirational. It says Tucson is the closest it's ever been to having a Mexican-American Chicano cultural center, and how the community's getting together to try to make this happen. And I just found it really cool, but I was also a little surprised or perplexed.
Same here. 40-something years I've been trying to do this, and it's just now getting done.
Yeah, in Tucson. Of
all places. This is weird because I think I've told you the story before when this is going back almost 30 years now. I went up to Nebraska, and if I'm not mistaken, it was either Lincoln or one of those places in the Twin Cities. They had a Chicano culture center there. This was back in the 90s. So you're telling me that they could have it said it in big letters outside, Chicano Cultural Center. And the Tucson is just now, it's weird to me how this happens, right?
And where was this at?
So it was Lincoln, Nebraska, I believe. It was in Lincoln, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
You don't think maybe they spelled Chicago wrong?
Oh, maybe that's
and
what
on
it
the
was.
sign,
Yeah,
they put
yeah.
Chicago Cultural.
Chicago. Right.
No, but on a serious, that's badass. I wonder if it's still around.
No, they changed the name to Latino something.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because
I
spoke to the gentleman who used to be part of the board. He's in the metro area now. He's working at one of the local universities. And this was like last year, not last year, the year before, November of 2024. I spoke with him and he said that they had to change the name because they had dwindling foot traffic at the center, because over time, the people who call themselves Chicanos either moved away or stopped going to the center. And so most of the people who needed to use the place and wanted to use the place were recent immigrants, not just from Mexico, but from other parts of Central and South America. And they had no idea what a Chicano was, or so they had to change the name to Latino.
One would think that
for that.
One of the purposes of a Chicano heritage center or cultural center is to teach the community about what a Chicano is and how that, has impacted the place where they now live. Like maybe a connection to the past where they can learn about the people who've built these places. Yeah. And, because history matters. I don't know.
Right.
Call me crazy, but.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's the story behind that one, at least.
What are you going to do? Well, it says Tucson Mayor Regina Romero, longtime Chicano community leader and organizer Raul Aguirre, and historian and author Lydia Otero got together and started trying to make this happen. And what I really like is there's a quote from Aguirre, and it says, he's been advocating for a Mexican-American Chicano, indigenous, cultural center for 40 years. And then he says, Tucson did not become a Mexican-American city, a Chicano city by accident. Right. This culture has not arrived recently. It's always been here. Yep. And he continues, our labor has built this city, our music, our food, our language, our traditions define the very character of Tucson. Hell yeah.
Good for him. And good on them. I'm happy that this is finally happening for the city of Tucson.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Have you picked up your Mexica calendar for the year 12 Flint? Or how about a paperback copy of The Four Disagreements? Just visit talesfromastlantis.com for all the latest merchandise and show some love for your favorite podcast. That's talesfromastlantis.com for all the latest merchandise. Now, back to the show. Yeah, sounds like a road trip would be necessary if they get this up off the ground. We should go check it out.
Yeah, it's been years. I think it's been going on 7-8 years now since I was last there. Tucson, beautiful place, love it.
Yeah, Tucson's awesome. I've only been once, and it was so long ago.
Right.
And then another little tidbit story that I caught online. It's an interview, so I'm not going to read from it because they're not my words. But there's a story called Her Art, and this is from the San Diego Union Tribune. Her art saved her, and she's using it to encourage pride in Chicano culture and history. And it's an interview with a Chicana artist, muralist, and instructor at Aztlan Libre in San Diego.
Right.
Her name is Mayra Mesa.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool interview with her. It talks about her growing up as an artist, getting away from doing her art and then returning to it later in life. She runs an organization called Arte Hasta la Muerte, and she's also the illustrator of a children's book called The Spirit of Chicano Park, El Espíritu del Parque Chicano by Beatriz Zamora.
Mm.
And it was the winner of the 2021 Thomas Rivera Book Award. And so there's a really great interview with this artist and how she's using her art to continue this tradition of Chicanismo and Chicanisma through her art. And I encourage everyone, stop doom scrolling, try to get away from all the negative. I know how fucking hard it is right now to do that, but we deserve, some joy. We deserve a mental break to take care of ourselves, and just not look at so much negativity. Let some positivity shine through. So
right.
I hope people.
And this is in the
out.
San Diego Union Tribune, and it's under the local news section.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in case anyone's wanting to look it up, that's where it is.
And it came out January 24th, so just a couple of days ago. And also, I have a little announcement. I've got a new book.
There's a book involved?
A book about to come out. And I'm very excited about it. It's called Never Will It Be Lost. And it is a companion piece to the calendar that I publish every year.
Right.
And super excited. More news, will come when it gets officially released. I'll do a little announcement leading up to that. But the cover is really dope. There's an artist online who goes by Mi Corazón Mexica. And he
does
allowed
good stuff.
me.
I like his stuff.
Yeah. He allowed me to use one of his paintings
nice.
as the cover of the book. So
nice.
I'm super stoked. I'm very excited.
And that's coming out when?
I'm hoping it'll come out like around the Mexica New Year. So around March.
Can you give our listeners a taste of what might be in it besides just the general description, like something more specific?
Yeah, so the main gist is it's like divided into two sections. The first section is sort of like this my interpretation, because growing up as an atheist, right? As somebody who has a non-theistic worldview, but who also deeply respects and appreciates ceremony, ritual, community, cultural continuity. It's basically like me going over how I personally have interpreted the ancestral teachings and how I utilize them in the modern world, right?
Right.
And then the second part of the book is the part that's really, really tied to the calendar. It's the 19 feasts or the 19 ceremonies, sort of laid out with meanings behind the history of those ceremonies, what they mean, what the primary sources say about these ceremonies. And then each one has sort of like a modern interpretation of the ceremony, sort of like how can you right now in 2026 celebrate these feasts in a way that, you know, respects and acknowledges our ancestors.
That's important because
maintains.
oftentimes people will do things and they'll, report on something that they've researched about the past and celebrations and ceremonies that people were doing. And oftentimes it's hard to kind of make a connection to current day. Like how can people at the present moment use, if they wanted to, begin celebrating those festivities and those holidays? Like what do you do? How do you go? I mean, where do you even start, right? Especially if you're not connected to a community that's already doing that sort of stuff. So I think this is important, and it sounds like you're doing good work there, Curly.
Thank you. It's I'm pretty proud of it. Michelle has been helping me out a lot with the editing and just because she was a journalist and that really good writer, and so she's been helping me kind of dial in a lot of my thought processes.
Copy editor.
Yes, exactly. She's my copy editor. So she's been helping with that. And the book, honestly, man, was directly inspired by and I don't want to give her name because I don't know if she wants her name out there, but there's a woman in California who's been doing a lot of work with prisoners and using the calendar and like stuff that Ruben Ochoa and myself have written and published to really help out prisoners to understand, to get culturally reconnected and just, have something to do and something meaningful.
An alternative to running to the cross or the crescent. Because it's always one or the other, right?
That alternative to that.
Yeah.
And so she's been using the calendar, and one of the prisons in California declared the calendar to be contraband.
What?
And so she reached out to me and we were talking about that, but then I got really inspired to be like, man, if I was in prison and, what would it mean to me if I had, like, what would I want access to if I was unable to carry out ceremony or tradition? Like it's like you said, I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
So that really directly inspired me putting this book together. And I hope people find it useful, I mean, none of it's set in stone. Like a lot of it's just my personal interpretations of things and suggestions of how you can, carry out these ceremonies in a modern day. And I draw a lot from primary sources, from the Florentine Codex and from the Primeros Memoriales and, the writings of different cronistas. I hope that people can pick it up and, take from it what they find useful and don't use what they don't find useful, right? Because I'm not your fucking dad. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but hopefully people find it
this way.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the right way to do it.
It's a way, right?
Yeah.
It's a way that this could possibly be done. You could adapt it, you could modify it, you can elaborate upon it if you find these things useful. So that's really the crux, like the inspiration behind this new book. So and hopefully I'm able to get it into the hands of some incarcerated folks, because I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, the Mexica Eagle Society had a prison project.
Right. I was just thinking about that, the prison project. Yeah.
And I used to, we would provide a lot of information and stuff to people that were incarcerated. And then, of course, that shit got expensive and it was like a one-man operation. So that it kind of fell to the wayside. But I've always wanted to sort of not revitalize it entirely, but still find a way to do that kind of work,
Well, I mean, do do inmates have access? I mean, I know they have access to maybe computers and they can log on to the internet,
You know what?
but
I know that they have tablets,
tablets, okay. Because I was
and
going to say, I don't
that
think they have phones. I don't think they allow them to have phones in their cells, right? Like to
they're
make
not
phone
supposed
calls.
to,
Right.
but they get them in. They
Right.
find a way to get phones in
But
for
tablets,
sure.
now that is something. If they have access to tablets, at least they have a connection to the outside world, right? And so if they have a way to access some of this material, if they can't have it physically because it's considered contraband, maybe the next step would be to make it accessible online somehow for
Yeah,
certain folks.
I need to look into that because I'm not sure how that works, like how much they're able to access on the tablets or what they're, because I'm sure there's controls over what they can look at and what they can, what sort of information that they're allowed.
What websites they're allowed to go to and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, if anybody on the new calendar that just came out, I did make it a point to talk about how maintaining the knowledge of these calendrical systems is part of religious freedom, and
Mm-hmm.
that these you should be allowed to have access to this material. Definitely.
Right.
I mean, it's like a First Amendment issue as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
And if they want someone a way to declare their religious freedom, they could also say that it's related to. There was an act that was passed that was similar to NAGPRA, but it was more about religious freedom. Do you remember what that was called? I'm blanking on the name of it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I also don't remember.
But it was
the name of
specifically for
it.
Native
Yeah.
people, to allow Native people to be able to do ceremony and to practice their indigenous religious ceremonies without interference from the government. Because a lot of people don't realize this. I mean, Native people, up until maybe 40 years ago, like around the time NAGPRA was passed, were not allowed to practice their indigenous beliefs if they weren't connected to Christianity. I'm not, that's basically it. If it wasn't related to Christianity, or if it wasn't an indigenous version of Christianity, Native people were not allowed to practice their true, authentic, colonized indigenous ways until that act was passed. And I'm blanking on the name of it, but
Yeah, I looked it up. It's the Religious Freedom Restoration Act.
There you go.
RFRA of 1993.
Yes. So it was around the time that NAGPRA was passed. So if there's anyone out there who finds himself in a position where they need to practice their indigenous religious ceremonies, that they can always look into this act and see if there's anything that they can use to allow them to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, because like at one point they were like pulling people out of sweat lodges
Yeah.
and just doing
Right.
all kinds of shitty things to people.
Right.
There's also the American Indian Religious Freedom Act.
That's the one I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
The American Indian
ARFA.
Religious Freedom. ARFA.
1978 established federal policy to protect Native American rights to believe, express, and exercise traditional religions. It was later strengthened by amendments which specifically protected the use of peyote, and then strengthened again by the broader Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which we just talked about in 1993. Right. So yeah, perhaps they could reference these
exactly
as a way to gain access to materials, because it's like you said, like an alternative to the cross and the crescent and whatever else is out there, right?
New Age
Israelite
nonsense.
shit or whatever the fuck that
Gnosticism.
Yeah. Yeah, Gnosticism. So, hopefully this book finds a way to inspire some folks.
Excellent.
And what were we? Oh, we were talking about some comments, right? Some fan mail comments.
So we did want to make a note to our listeners who leave comments on Buzzsprout. Those comments, all we have is access to the comment. We don't have access to respond to you because it doesn't show us your your contact information. So we get comments all the time, some asking us questions, some making comments that they, I guess, hope that we respond to. And there's no way for us to respond to them directly. So if you really want to get in touch with us, you should probably reach out to us via our official email. What
Yeah.
is it, Curly?
So we've got talesfromastlantis@gmail.com
Okay.
is the way,
That's
the best
probably
way
the best way, yeah,
to reach
get
out to us. And then we can actually respond to you. Or, you know what an even better way is? Yeah. Do you know?
What is it?
It's to become a Patreon supporter.
Oh, that's right.
And get in on the Discord.
Exactly.
And we have conversations there all the time.
Yeah.
So that would, and it's a way to promote and support the show too. So,
well, do we want to read some of these comments?
Yes, please do.
So I want to start with the latest one. This is from back in December, and this is from someone who is in Chicago. If you're listening to this and you're this individual from Chicago who posted this, please reach out to us via the email that Curly just mentioned. And it says, "Hello, friends. My name is Manuel. I recently wrote a book about Teotihuacan, and I would like to send you a copy. I wrote it in Spanish, and I'm currently working on the English version. I would really appreciate if you could provide me with a physical address to send you a couple of copies, Tlazocamati. And guess what, Manuel? I would love this book, so please reach out to us because I read both English and Spanish, so you can send me either or. I'll be content with whichever one, but I believe, Curly, you probably want the English version, right?
Well, I read Spanish as well. I don't speak Spanish, but I can read Spanish.
Okay. Well, there you go. So you want to read the next one? You can skip the one from Encino because
we've got one from
cut off.
I don't know. It's from Encino, New Mexico. It reads I.
So,
nice. We've got one here from Detroit, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I know who wrote these.
Yeah.
It says, how the hell did we get here? Right? And that's in reference to an episode we did. That was the title of the episode, right?
Right.
My debates with individuals have always been that these two factors, ideology and theology, have shaped the core of who we are as a nation. They, conservative Protestantism, this branch overwhelmingly has been in charge in government politics from day one, believe it provides a framework for understanding the world, their conservative purpose, and their moral responsibilities. Theology offers existential meaning. It tells them why they exist and what happens after they die. Ideology, whether political or social, guides their actions and choices. Without these guiding structures, they would be lost, drifting without values or direction. In this sense, they don't just influence, and then in parentheses, ignorant conservative Catholics, as a nation, they define it as living the right way, conscious beings capable of reflecting on their existence through only by faith. I do agree that the media plays a role in influencing today's issues. The media in America have never been a neutral conveyor of information. It has consistently acted as a powerful agent of ideological and theological influence, shaping not only what Americans believe, but also how they see themselves and their nation. Ultimately, Primo, we are fighting an uphill battle of 80 to 70% of the people, and especially the elite conservatives in power.
Mm-hmm.
Well written.
Absolutely. Should I do the next one from him? Or
yeah.
So it says, this is before he posted this one. He says, great show, episode 80, the Chicano Moratorium. I was part of the first generation 1974 kindergarten and production of the Chicano movement to learn bilingual subjects in public schools from the 1972 Chicano survey. A significant research study was conducted in the public school systems of the Southwest, focusing on educational inequalities for Mexican Americans. A questionnaire survey was administered to a sample of 636 superintendents in Arizona, California, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas. So he was, I guess, telling us, I lived through that.
Yeah, exactly.
The initial generation.
Times. Yeah. Respect.
Right on. Let's see, what else do we have here? I think we have another one from back in June, Denver, Colorado. Hey, I'll let you take that one, Mr. Colorado.
It's quite simple. It says, "Great show. Thank you for reminding us how important our history is." Well, thank you
Nice.
for listening, and thank you for the kind
Exactly.
words, because we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And then we have another one from San Diego back also in mid-June. The Novo Mexicano mestizo accent experience is so similar to First Nation peoples of Canada. My family comes from the Acadian, a mixed French First Nation population near Newfoundland. My great-grandmother came to Massachusetts via Quebec. Anecdote that parallels the immigrant experience of Mexican Americans here in California, my home. When my grandmother was in school, the nuns forbid the French language. See, I didn't know that. She got hit on the back of her hand with a ruler for speaking French, but her friend was thrown down a flight of stairs and broke her
Jesus.
arm. This was in the
Goddamn.
19th and early 20th century. MAGA question. So yeah, comparing what they were doing to what's going on today. But that when I read this comment initially back in June, I was like, wow, I had no idea that people who spoke French also had that same experience of being beaten down by the nuns or the teachers for speaking Spanish, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of interesting. So
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
yeah, there's a lot more, but I think we'll leave it there for now.
Yeah.
And also, before we close out the episode today, our final episode for the season, we kind of wanted to take a brief look back at some of the episodes that we did over the course of this season. Curly, which one did you find was one of the ones that you really liked the most that we did?
Honestly, I really liked the Inventing New Mexico's Crypto Jews episode.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun writing that, researching it, and because that's always been one of those things that just gets repeated in New Mexico ad nauseum without any sort of critical analysis or any look at, and some people wrote in and they were like, "So are you suggesting that there are no Jews in New Mexico? Or that crypto Jews are a myth entirely?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. We're not saying that." But just that the preponderance of evidence, that the majority of information coming out supporting this particular flavor of New Mexican, crypto Jews is largely based on pseudo history and, just bad interpretations of historical events. And I think if you go back and listen to that episode, I think that comes through. So if anybody took offense to it, I apologize. That wasn't the intention, truly, to insinuate that, there are no such thing as crypto Jews. Right. Or that the possibility that crypto Jews could have somehow wound up in New Mexico. Again, not what I was saying. But I asked, anybody who had a problem with it, just go back and listen to it again, because I think maybe some of these criticisms may have been jumping the gun.
Yeah, and also I think that people they get certain feelings after listening or reading something that doesn't sit well with them because of some emotional connection or personal connection that they might have. And even if there really isn't any implied negativity on behalf of, for instance, ourselves towards the crypto Jewish community, just the fact that we're discussing it might make someone think twice. Like, well, what are they really saying? Are they questioning the identity of these people, etc.? Like, not really. If you listen to the episode, we just looked at one case, and that was it. Like this individual and what they were doing, and kind of as a cautionary tale. Really, that's what honestly. It was. I mean, that's the way that I took it when you sent me the script. But the one that I liked, and I think is something that's important for all of us, is the one we did on the 100 Years of Cosmic Racism.
Yeah.
That one right there.
That was a good one.
That one. I was going back through my notes I forget what I was looking at, and this was like not last year, but the year before, and I was like, wait a minute, this book, this book that was written, um, about mestizaje and all this stuff. It's going to be 100 years coming up in 2025. I figured we should do something about that, and so that's the origin of that one. I wanted people to know because going back to this idea of what a Chicano is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 70s when the term really became a badge of honor, because a lot of people still believe that the term is no older than the 60s, even if they even
Yeah.
make it that far back. They still think it's something from a product of the 1970s. But it's like even those people still don't understand that the term Chicano, not only it's older than that, but that when it was first developed, it was an antithesis to the racist ideology of mestizaje, as you were saying earlier. Latinidad and Hispanidad are a product of this whole notion of the mestizo ideology that was promoted by all those Hispanistas at the turn of the century after the Mexican Revolution. And so I felt like it was something that we had to really address to flag that moment in time that really influenced a lot of Chicano scholarship and continues to influence a lot of Chicano scholarship today. This idea that it's an equal mix indigenous and equal mix European
half and
produces a
half.
Chicano. Like, no, that's not how it works, right? Like, in fact, we've known this for a long time. Even people in Mexico, not just here in the U.S., but anyone who has ethnic Mexican descent, generations going back to connections to Mesoamerica and the Southwest, the preponderance of the DNA that courses through our veins is indigenous, right? Like in some cases, up to like 80% indigenous. Now, is it a mix of other indigenous people? Yeah, but it's indigenous. And so this mythology, right, of the mestizo identity that's tied to, the cosmic race, like, yeah, it's weird. It's 100 years down the road, and we're still having to debate this. We're still having to talk about this, and it's like, geez, thanks a lot, right? Like the
Thanks,
legacy,
Vasconcelos.
Vasconcelos, right? Like, thanks for that legacy that you and your cohort bequeathed not only Mexico, but like infiltrated the minds of Chicanos in the Southwest. And you know what? To each his own. Like, the ideology worked and it did its thing at that moment that it needed to, but like, you don't have to be stuck there forever. If you find that ideology no longer works and operates and does the thing that it needs to do today for us as a community, then it's okay to discard it. It was just a tool at the time. And
Yeah.
now that we have better information, now that we have better connections to our ancestry, to our culture, to who we are as a people, then it's okay to say, yeah, those guys, the Raza Cosmica, that was okay back then, but that's not who we are anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage people, like you were saying, to really question what it means to be a Latino or a Hispanic,
Yep.
a Mexican American or Chicano. Like, what does it really mean to say that you're any one of those identities, right?
Yep. What does it mean when I say you can't be a Chicano and support Trump, but you can be a Latino and support Trump? Do you remember that old Lalo Alcaraz made that
Yeah.
old cartoon that said censorship isn't Chicano, it's Hispanic?
Oof.
Like I'm always
Yeah.
reminded of that. And then back in the day in the 90s there was like that call, that motto of, soy Chicano, not Hispanic, not
Hispanic,
Latino.
Not Latino, yeah.
And now it seems like people have forgotten that. Like, we have such short memories now that everybody's just on their phones all the time and discounting the past and thinking it's not relevant to what's
It's
going
an
on right
inconvenient
now.
truth. That's basically what it is. It's inconvenient to want to not only just identify as indigenous, but to do anything worthwhile to continue, being a traditional person or tied to traditional ways. Because we're so, like you said, we're so, glued to the screens in front of us. Yeah.
Exactly.
So what other show did you have on your list?
Rise Up, Walk Out, episode 89. The Chicano walkouts or the Chicano blowouts. I really liked that episode. It's just history again. Like, it's important that we know these things.
Right.
Because if we don't, if we have no frame of reference, then people are always like trying to reinvent the wheel, right? Instead of being like, well, people did this before and this is what we can learn from it. But now, like, this whole idea that, well, that's old, they're unks.
Oh, those unks.
Those unks.
Yeah.
Hey.
My second one, and then we'll call it an episode, is I think the interview we did with Ken Feder.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It's always great to have Feder on the show, or just even listen to him whenever he's on anyone's podcast. I make sure that I listen in because he's a fun person to talk to. He's very knowledgeable, and he's just a great person all around.
And a great conversationalist too.
Yeah, great conversationalist.
Like, he knows what he's talking about, and he knows how to say it.
And I like the fact that he gave the podcast a shout out in his latest book. So kudos, Dr. Feder. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we close out season 5 of the Tales from Atlantis podcast. But do not despair, because I have a little surprise for you lovely folks. I've actually got a handful of dispatches all written up and ready to go to cover what I'm calling the off season of Tales from Atlantis. So you'll still get some new content. And I hope you enjoy it. And with that, it's like we always say.
Wait.
Yes,
is this like the off season? Is that like saying off Broadway?
Yeah, a little bit. It's like
a little bit,
off
Atlantis.
The off Broadway of Atlantis.
There you go. I like that.
Off Slantis.
Off Slantis.
But it's like we always say here about the truth.
What's up with that?
Well, it's like medicine. It doesn't always taste good, but it is always good for you. Timoitase.
Fuck ice all day and every day.
Thank you for listening to Tales from Atlantis, a project of the Chimali Institute of Mesoamerican Arts. If you enjoy the show, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You can do this by visiting talesfromatlantis.com and clicking Support the Podcast. Your continued support will help keep the podcast ad-free and independent. Until next time, Timoitase.